So last time we talked about an anime that everyone loved but I hated. Thus I felt it was only natural that this week we talk about an anime that I love that everyone else seems to hate. Well, maybe hate is a strong word to describe last year's To Uso. Perhaps a better word would be forgotten or underwhelmed or liked the idea but didn't care for the execution. Actually, that last one is more than one word, but you get the point. Basically, to say that this anime went under the radar is an understatement. More like it went under the ocean floor and burnt to death in the Earth's core. Yeah, most people missed this one, and as much as I'd like to say, like Recreators, it got stuck on anime strike and therefore no one gave a crap, there are a lot of reasons why this thing failed. Which sucks, because as many of you know, this was my favorite anime of last year. I brought it up in a lot of different videos, and I probably should have reviewed it then when it needed the attention as opposed to now, but we're talking about it now, so let's rescue this forgotten ship. First up with its premise, which actually got a lot of people's attention when the series was announced. In the near future, when Japanese teenagers turn 16, the government assigns who they will marry. They actually, from the day you're born, start looking for the perfect person that will make you happy. Looking at your genes, personality, intelligence level, they are genuinely dedicated to finding your special someone, and that's it. There's no complicated political goal, evil villain who needs to get stopped, crazy death challenge that is just an allegory for high school. It's just that this world is exactly the same as the real world, except for this one very, very, very big thing. I really like the idea. We don't get a lot of subtle science fiction like that these days. Everything these days has to be big and epic, and its messages have to be big and epic, and a lot of times the characters and even the drama of the situation get drowned out because of that. This series bases everything around a simple, straightforward idea and builds on it, and that fact alone can kind of make or break it for people. A lot of people read the premise and looked at the post and either thought of it as a YA dystopian future high school thing or just another romantic teen soap opera and decided to avoid it. It also didn't help that the series was not well advertised. Amazon didn't put a lot of effort into actually telling people about the anime they held hostage, licensed, and what trailers and press were in Japan seemed to want to make this series look as generic as possible. Granted, this anime gets weird and pretty fucked up in ways that you can't really sum up correctly in a commercial, so I don't really know how you show this off to people. Seriously, I'm even reading off a script for once, just because I had so much trouble figuring out how to go about this review. Fortunately, though, one thing that isn't really hard to talk about with this anime is the characters. As I'm sure many of you people have noticed, character-driven narratives are my jam, and a premise like this really only works if the characters are used effectively to show off the world while still making you want to root for them, and this show does this perfectly. First up, we have our main protagonist, Yukari Nejima, and yeah, if you couldn't tell by the design, he's your typical bright-eyed, goofy, everyday man protagonist, and even though these characters can get old quickly and they're even all starting to look the same, they make him good enough and relatable enough that he stays likable and never gets annoying, especially when compared to other characters like him we've been getting lately. What's really important about him, though, is his big drama. He's in love with a girl who the government didn't assign him to. Once again, that's it. There's nothing else, and there doesn't need to be. His feelings and what they mean for him are crazy enough. We don't need him to be the chosen one, or his parents to be zombies or something. He's just a kid with a crush on a girl, and that girl is Misaki Takasaki, which, now that I'm saying that name out loud, sounds like something out of a 1960s comic book. Actually, she likes him back, and hates that fact. Like that, because, well, they can't be together. She's actually a great foil to Nejima, believe it or not, where Nejima is dorky, easily excitable, and has an idealistic view of life despite what the world wants of him. She's tragically the opposite. She always tries to be cool and collected while keeping her true feelings hidden, but they make sure not to make her seem cold or necessarily miserable. It's just she understands the world she lives in and what that means for her, but she can't ignore how she feels about Nejima, and those feelings will just come out in these moments of just plain teenage lust. Also, by the way, this anime gets fucking hot. It's nothing super explicit or even that often in it, but they do a good enough job of making you want these two to succeed that it makes these kissing scenes stand out a lot more than they would in a lesser series. They also play into the philosophical elements of the show. These two kids can't actually explore and try and understand how they feel about each other because society says so. So they just end up having these moments where they give into pure passion. You also have Nejima's assigned wife, Ririna Sanada, and I'm just going to say this right now, even though I want Nejima to end up with Masaki, Ririna's best girl. It would be so easy to just make her a bitch or not do anything with her at all. Just use her as a tool to make you root for more for our main couple. But she's actually a lot of fun. She's likable and she's cute. She's this lonely girl who is fascinated by the idea of falling in love, and the relationship she develops with both Nejima and actually Masaki feels very genuine, to the point where I actually start thinking to myself, holy shit, maybe this girl should actually be with Nejima. But wait, if I think that, then does that mean I agree with this society? No, but freedom and falling in love with who you want, but they seem so good together. Oh my god. I'm actually thinking about the ideas this anime poses because of what actually happens in it. What kind of sorcery is this? There's also Nejima's best friend, Yusuke Nisaka, who is just kind of the generic cool best friend. He has his interesting points, but I don't want to spoil them. And finally, the last two characters I want to bring up are the government agents whose job it is to help, or maybe manipulate, Nejima and Ririna's relationship. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna say it. These guys, especially the lady, are awesome. Instead of just making them evil, generic government agents, people that actually have a lot of personality and character. Plus, they add a lot of the stuff that will make your skin crawl in this series. Whenever the redhead talks, she's essentially just giving exposition, but what makes it great is she talks about all these crazy things they do to manipulate and brainwash people through this system they've been placed, but with such a happy and friendly, caring tone. Oh, it just makes everything in this world seem creepy. As for the animation, looks pretty good. It's a very standard romance look, but when combined with all the creepy stuff, it just gives you a sense of uneasiness. But when it's time for all the romance to happen, it makes the scene look beautiful, and it's got a pretty good score. So I think in that respect, it succeeds very well. The last thing I want to talk about is how fucked up this series gets. I don't want to spoil anything, but just know, whatever you're wondering about how this world works, they'll get to it. Oh boy, do they get to it. Especially when they get to a certain subject. I won't spoil it here. You'll know when you get there, but just know that for the 2 episodes this plotline goes on, my jaw was dropped the whole time. I've watched series like School Days, Elfen Lied, and a lot of other iconic screwed up anime, but this is the series where it's just one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in an anime, and I love it. The series ends clearly wanting another season, but still, I appreciate its attempt at trying to end like an episode of The Twilight Zone. So now that I've praised the hell out of this series, what went wrong? Well, besides the bad marketing, generic sounding premise, and just being swallowed up by the sheer amount of bigger anime around it, I could totally see this not being for everybody. And that's not because I'm an asshole who thinks most people are stupid and won't get it. No, this series isn't for everyone. Not everyone likes screwed up, weird shit like this. And if you're a fan of these genres, you're probably going to feel a little lacking. Because it tries so many different things, it can never really excel at any one genre. If you're into romance, you might not be able to get into this one because Nejima and Masaki don't have as many scenes together as they should. If you're really into science fiction, for all the fucked up stuff, they never go any further than just showing it to you. Understandably, you might get a little bored. And even if you're just looking for a good drama, the lack of a proper conclusion will probably just spoil it for you. So I get why this didn't stick with the larger anime community. And if you told me you gave the show a shot and it just didn't do it for you, I get that. But for me, when you look at all the anime that become big during the year and how often people complain about not enough unique stuff, I gotta believe this series has a place in the world besides just being another failed franchise. So yeah, that's To Uso. I think it's smart, clever, pretty funny, really fascinating series, and I think if you're anything like me, you'll like it and maybe even love it. And if it gets a lot of attention, well, who knows? Weird shit like Saikano and Kekai-Sensen can get second season, so why can't this? After all, this whole series was on YouTube for a little bit. Granted, as I've learned, that's because piracy. So just find it on your generic anime site you use. Also, click to like and click to subscribe so I can continue saving forgotten anime. Okay, I'm too lazy to actually do that, but when I think of it, we'll come to their rescue at some point.